I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mikulajczyk.
Here.
Council President Conahan.
Here.
Councilman Carnes. Councilman Decino.
Here.
Councilman Doty.
Here.
Councilman Quinn.
Here.
Councilman Rex. Administrator Laplace.
Here.
And Attorney Corsini.
Here. Okay, we have a couple of presentations tonight. It may actually turn out only to be one. The rescue squad actually got called out on a call, so if they make it back, that's great. But if not, we'll push them back to another time. I'd like to turn over the floor right now to Ken Bartok, who is our fire chief. Yep.
Mayor and Council, thank you for having me tonight and Middlesex Borough. If anybody doesn't know me, I'm the fire chief for 2024. My name is Ken Bartok. I was in the firefighters in 2007 and an officer for the fire department since 2012, respectively. My deputy chief, Sean Earl, right in the corner here, is my second in command. My assistant chief, Eric Showman, unfortunately isn't able to attend tonight due to work obligations. So I'm just going to give you guys a little history and keep you moving. Can everybody hear me? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to do that. Take it off this one. Yeah. There you go. There we go. It's not good, Sean, for our normal meetings. Do not get one of these. I'll talk forever. But we give you a little backstory of the fire department, who we are, what we do, and just honestly what we need right now. So the Middlesex Fire Department was established in 1905 by the residents of the Middlesex Lincoln section. So we have a Lincoln section of Middlesex. We have a Lincoln Fire Company. That's where that name came from. But really, it was still Piscataway Township at the time. So until 1913, then when Middlesex was actually created. The fire department is comprised of 4 volunteer fire companies, all volunteer. We have no career staff. Lincoln Fire Company number 1 on Drake Avenue, Beechwood Fire Company number 2 on Union, which is Route 28, Pierce Fire Company number 3 on A Street, and Parker Fire Company number 4 on Malvern Road, the other side of Hanover, which is also Route 28. Like I stated earlier, all fire companies are volunteer, and MFD is comprised of those 4 stations. So those 4 separate fire companies are Middlesex Fire Department when we're dispatched. Give me one second. We elect our fire chief, which would be my position, my deputy chief, and the assistant chief from those 4 firehouses. You have to have certain qualifications to actually run for fire chief before any fire officer position. And also, my captain, lieutenant, engineer, and assistant engineer are elected yearly from each station as well. So we have 3 chiefs, 4 captains, 4 lieutenants, etc. every year. And there's also minimum state standards, like I stated before, that we require so you can actually run for those positions. My department's asked this question a lot. We're 3.5 square miles. Why are there 4 firehouses? You know, people, that's one of the biggest questions we asked. And also, you're volunteer, I didn't know that. We thought you were paid. Our firefighters respond from work at home if they can to all emergency calls for service. Just like today, we had fire prevention at the borough, all the borough schools, the high school, elementary school, pre-K, and we had 3 calls during that event as well. So we had to kind of scramble and figure that out. Even though we're usually not in quarters, we're not in the firehouse when we respond, we consistently have a fire engine or a chief officer or both on scene in less than 8 minutes because of the placement of those firehouses, which is very important. You know, fire doubles in size every minute. So think about that. If the fire is as large as this, it's going to double in size in 1 minute. So the faster you get water on fire, the faster we can mitigate the damage of that incident. Now, luck was also on our side when we placed our firehouses in the specific sections of town because, unfortunately, everybody knows this. It's not if we flood, it's when we flood. And when we flood, we turn into islands, right? Little islands of Middlesex Borough. So thankfully, that when we flood, each flooded section of Middlesex, even when we're completely cut off from the rest of the borough, has a firehouse. So it doesn't matter where you live in Middlesex. Even when you flood and there's no way anybody can get to you, you have a fire truck. And Chief Geis in the police department always makes sure each firehouse as a police officer. We stage rescue squads at those buildings as well. So that's really important. Sorry, I've never done this. I'm just a little nervous. Thank you. Our fire stations are independently owned and operated, which means that the firefighters, the members that go out on the emergency calls, actually own the buildings. So the borough doesn't own the building. The fire company members own the building. And we actually pay our bills with all the volunteer contributions from the carnival, the mailings we send out every year. Boot drives, you see firefighters on the street with their boots, you know, put $1 in the boot. That's literally how we keep the lights on. That's how we pay our bills. And we're supplemented by the borough, but most of our bills are paid by us, by our fundraising. And again, people think all the time, oh, when you get off shift, they say, we're not paid, we're volunteer. And we're trying to suppress that right now because we're members. And that's the biggest thing I want to put into this presentation is we need firefighters, we need manpower. That's huge. We're pretty much set otherwise, but we need members to respond. We need new blood. Yes?
What are the age requirements?
So you can join as a member, a junior member at 16 years old, but you can't do any type of firefighting or like heavy equipment operations until you're 18. You can't go to the fire academy until you're 18. But 16 years old, you can come in, walk in, join a fire company, see what it's about, kind of get your feet wet. So I did that at age 20. It ended up being a career for me in a different town. I mean, I would have nothing without the Middlesex Fire Department. So we're trying to stress to people. You know, even though you become a volunteer fireman, yeah, you're not getting paid. I have, Sean, how many members do we have that are actually either crew firemen, police officers, sheriff's officers, dispatchers, all because of the Middlesex Fire Department? You know, at least 10 to 20.
What is the upper age limit?
So, for volunteer firefighters, there's no upper age limit.
So 70 grand comes to the fire.
We have-
3,000 places.
So
What do you
it,
feel like that type of rate?
yeah, I mean, you could absolutely become an associate member and help out in that aspect. And we have a member that just hit 50 years active this year. Now, he's dealing with some issues right now, but he's 50 years active fighting fire, driving a fire truck. Like, not 50 years on the roster, actually doing the job. And we do have members that you know, that age. Yes, absolutely. Let's see here. So the borough's also worked really hard for us, with us, to increase our budget. That's huge. Just like everybody knows, inflation has been horrible the last few years, and it affects everybody. Police, fire, you know, you guys, me, right? So we're trying to increase our budget where we can and do it the best way for the borough and its residents. Also in the borough, some funds. The borough and the fire department in the last 2 years, with the help of our grant writer and our chiefs, have acquired 2 grants for the fire department. One grant was for almost $180,000 for turnout gear and thermal imaging cameras. Thermal imaging cameras can we use to locate fire in a smoke-filled building. And our other grant was just over $21,000 for water restoration. So almost $200,000 we acquired within the last 2 years for the borough. So that's huge for us. We haven't had a grant before that, I think in 17 years, Sean. Laurie Pinter, one of our ex-chiefs, acquired that. So it's been a long time. And we're still trying. I'm putting in for grants left and right. So anytime the grant writer, hey, we have this. All right, tell me what you need. You know, they're so willing to work with us, and we have to be willing to work back to help out. Over the last couple of years, our call volume has increased significantly. When I joined the fire department in 2007, December 31st, I remember specifically, we were dispatched to call number 200. And we were like, whoa, 200 calls. Like, we couldn't believe it. 200 calls, Little Middlesex. Our call volume has gone up a lot since then. 2019, 380 calls. 2020 went down a little bit, 342 calls. Even though more people were home, people didn't report incidents because of COVID and being afraid, not knowing what was going on in the world. 2021, with Ida, 413 calls. 2022, 417 calls. Last year, record high for us. No storm, no weather events. 476 calls, almost 500 calls for service in Middlesex Borough. This year we're up to 347. It's, like I said, I had 3 today during Fire Prevention Day with the kids. And we respond to many different types of calls for service, not just, hey, my house is on fire, or my car is on fire, right? We'll go to brush fires, mulch fires. We respond to fire and seal alarms. If the fire alarm goes off in your house, or your carbon monoxide alarm, we check that out. Odors of smoke in your house, you're not sure where it's coming from. You smell natural gas, propane. We help EMS when they need help, either lifting a heavy patient or at car accidents. Electrical hazards inside and outside the home. I smell electrical burning or power lines down the ground sparking, right? Water leaks in the home, floods, natural disasters. This year we went to a cat stuck under a solar panel on the roof of a house. And last year we went to, well, twice, the dog did twice. He went to underneath a, what was it, a porch? Yeah, he went, and we actually had to dig him out during a thunderstorm. Like, he was stuck under the porch. So we literally respond to every instance you could think of, any type of call. And with DPW, we really are the fix-alls of the borough. Jim Raker told me this once. He was an ex-chief that passed away a couple years ago, but I'll never forget this quote. He said, Ken, the police department is usually called when people need help. When the police department needs help, they call the fire department. I'll never forget that. And you guys keep smiling. So,
Did you park legally tonight?
Sorry, but that always happens to me, so I like to say that when I can. You know, unfortunately, even with all the community events and the fundraising, this is the biggest part for us I want to hit home with the mayor and council of the borough. We're struggling to bring in new membership. This is huge for us. Put it into perspective, in 2018, we had 82 active firefighters. Each firehouse is allowed to have max 25 people. 20 years ago, we had a waiting list. People actually had to wait to join the volunteer firehouse because we didn't have enough room. So right now, we're down to 61 members. That's huge. That's a huge reduction in manpower, especially during the day. You know, the state firefighter 1 course is 210 hours. It's like a college level course. 6 months. Yeah, 6 months now, I think they're up to, Sean. So it's a huge commitment for people just to walk in the door and say, okay, I have to go to school 3 nights a week for 6 months, on top of work, on top of family, on top of college, right? I would also like to bring up that in the fire department in 2007, I joined to help people. I joined to make a difference. Like I said before, I didn't think it was going to turn into a career for me in another town. Multiple jobs. And I could ask Sean or any of my other senior members that have been here for a number of years why we did this. It was just to help people, help our neighbors, because we wanted to make a difference. Unfortunately, the mindset now with the next generation, I can't believe I'm saying that, but the next generation, it's changed a lot in the last 20 to 30 years. And nowadays, everybody wants some sort of compensation for their time, no matter what it is. For example, there are at least 10 firefighters in Middlesex Borough that are certified through the state of New Jersey. They belong to other firehouses around us, different towns, because we don't offer any incentives, which is crazy to even think. For example, these incentives are either permit waivers for construction, right? Low staff, which is I'll touch on, paid for call responses, so you get paid $1 amount per fire call you go on, and officer response, so being a captain or a lieutenant, you get a monetary value at the end of the year for that. And unfortunately, bigger department budgets. Like there's fire districts around us that have multi-million-dollar budgets, and that's just the nature of larger towns, which we don't have. And a few of them are very, very vocal about stating, like, if you guys get this at the borough and initiate something, we'll join. But they just don't want to do it for free anymore. Which I get, but it's unfortunate. And we both, the fire department and the borough, have recognized this problem, and we're both actively engaged in trying to figure out how to recruit new members, bring new blood into the fire department. The borough started contributing to our LoSAP program, which is a length of service award program for our firefighters in 2019, which if we make a certain percentage of calls or drills, meetings, $1,150 can be deposited into that firefighter's account at the end of the year. And it's essentially a 401k, so at the end of the year, at the end of their career as a volunteer fireman, they can take that money, either roll it into a 457 or 401k, they can withdraw from it. And the only other way they can withdraw from it is financial hardship. So that money is locked in that account until they retire, essentially. So it's something for them to lean on when they retire. We're also in discussion about a stipend, response stipend for the firefighters, and a possible tax break, because everyone else around us is either doing it or in discussion about doing it. I'm not saying I want these for my firemen, but I feel like having these incentives offered to the residents, because let's be real, I'm a resident of Middlesex Borough. My firemen come from Middlesex Borough. I need people that live in town to volunteer, or we will not have a fire department. And that's what I want to drive home. I want to be able to offer these incentives and at least get people walking the door and see what we're about. Because we've tried everything else and it hasn't worked. But honestly, at the end of the day, my job as fire chief is just to make sure that my fire apparatus respond to every incident, and I run my houses accordingly. Everything else is secondary. The fundraising, right, the carnival, our meetings, everything else, the whole point of our existence is to make sure we respond to calls for service. And I want to make sure we keep doing that. So, some may not agree with me that we need this stipend, but the world's changing, unfortunately. The new age volunteer cannot give what we gave 20, 30 years ago. We just talked about this before with one of the council members that, we no longer live in a one-job society. I have 2 jobs, my wife has 2 jobs. It takes a lot more income to actually have a functioning household now. People don't have time to just volunteer anymore. So we have to be competitive in what we offer to actually bring firemen in. So I feel like if we don't take some sort of action now to increase our membership, we run the risk of not being able to provide a service down the road. We're not struggling yet, but unfortunately it's not just Middlesex Borough's problem, it's happening everywhere. It's the United States problem, it's a New Jersey problem, and we want to stop this problem before it starts. I would like to end on a positive note. I do have 5 new members going to the Fire Academy right now. They're at the Academy today, which is great. 5 new members is an engine company. I can do a lot of work at a fire scene, but I need a lot more. And that's one of the largest groups I've ever had to actually attend since I've been in for 17 years. I've never seen 5 firefighters go to the Academy at once. And everybody, I had a couple phone calls from other chiefs. Ken, what are you doing? How do you get 5 people? I have no idea. I'm just lucky. Everybody wanted to join at once. But, Mayor and Downs, I would like to thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you for being patient with me. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to address them or answer them to the best of my ability.
Any questions, guys?
Not a question, but I'd just like to make a comment, because not only are you guys volunteers, but in the case of the hurricanes and the floods, you leave your family to go out and take care of it.
Thank you. Yeah, the last storm we had, thankfully it was 3 years ago. We were up for 48 hours straight, our members. We didn't go home, we didn't go to bed. 48 hours. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Yes, sir.
And you reach out to the high schools. Like, I know I went to school for high school, but, we saw you on October, but there was nothing, back then.
No, good question. I actually as soon as I became fire chief in January, I reached out to high school, because that, honestly, other than word of mouth, that's where you're going to get younger people, right? Or people that just moved to town that want to make a difference. So I spoke to the Board of Ed January, I think it was like 7th, and they said that everything was booked for this year because they book everything yearly. Next year I have a presentation hopefully set up with, it's called After the Fire. So it's about the Seton Hall fire. 2 survivors actually come and speak to the students. We do it at work, where I work. It's fantastic. And afterwards we can open up, I've still seen it. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it, but that would be awesome.
Yeah. So it's eye-opening. It's a little graphic, but it's a great presentation. It makes kids realize even at their age, fire safety is important, what not to do in the dorms, but, you see something, say something, right? And then afterwards, they open it up to firemen. And we can have as much time as we want to make it actually like a recruiting scenario for us. So that's my plan. I'm hoping the Board of Ed okays it, but I want to do that next year. It would be amazing.
Might get on.
Yep.
Yeah, please on.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Kenny, thank you.
Kenny.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, if the rescue squad shows up, we may have to break our agenda here, because I would hate to have them come back and not be able to get their presentation done. But at this point, let's move on to appointments.
Okay, we're accepting the resignation of Kristen Bennett from the Parks Improvement Committee.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Okay. No proclamations, no ordinance for introduction. All right, we have a couple of ordinances for public hearing and final adoption.
I have ordinance number 2136-24, an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 355 entitled Stormwater Control.
Okay, got to have a motion to open the public hearing. Second, all in favor is good for that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public portion now of the public hearing for this one here is now open. Anyone wishing to say anything, please step up to the mic.
Tim Stewart, 345 Main Street, Middlesex, New Jersey. Thank you for your service. I am standing here tonight to talk about the amendment plan 24-1, which is for GBP paves.
Oh, this is the Pond Avenue?
Yes.
Not yet. Okay.
Only because I'm
No.
not prepared to do.
No, that's okay. Not a problem. This is, you're going to be coming up when we talk about the privilege of the floor.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, anyone else? Seeing nobody else, I'd like a motion to close.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to approve.
Motion, Mayor, sorry.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Council President Conahan.
Yes.
Councilman DeCino.
Yes.
Councilman Doty.
Yes.
And Councilman Quinn.
Yes.
Okay. Next one.
We have ordinance number 2137-24, an ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the Environmental Commission of the Municipal Code of the Borough of Middlesex to create a Green Team Subcommittee.
Okay, motion to open the public portion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak, come on up. This is regarding the formation of the Green Team. Got to tell you, it's long overdue. Claire, thanks for your steadfastness in trying to see this through. Anyone? Okay, motion to close?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Council President Conahan.
Yes.
Councilman DeCino.
Yes.
Councilman Doty.
Yes.
And Councilman Quinn.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We're up to adoption of minutes.
Okay, I have approval of the September 10th, 2024 executive meeting minutes.
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And I have approval of the September 24th, 2024 regular and executive meeting minutes.
Motion.
Motion, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. All right, now we're going to move on to the mayor's report. This may take a while tonight, so just bear with me. Okay, we're going to talk about it again. You can bring up your questions in the privilege of the floor part. But one of the things that came out this week is that there was a lot of information and misinformation on this Pond Avenue thing that was going around. So, and it really became evident. I didn't make it to the first meeting that they had that day because I was at work, but the second meeting that they had, I was able to listen in. I had a whole bunch of questions, and the more I read it and the more I saw what was going on, it just became evident that something's wrong. So I hit up Lenny first thing in the morning. I said, Lenny, we got to get in there, and we have to go take a look. So Lenny organized to get us into the building, and I'm just going to read the letter that came after that. So on Thursday, October 4th at 3 p.m., our BA, Chief of Police, DPW Supervisor, Councilman DeCino, and myself had an in-person meeting with the principals at 207 Pond regarding the proposed County Solid Waste Plan Amendment at 207 Pond Avenue as a Class D recycling center. As a result of the meeting, several points were clarified. However, most issues were found to be with their application, not only not being reflective of what they wanted to do. They recognize this, and the expectation is that you would be receiving a corrected amendment to this application from them. This is a letter that was sent back to the state. All right? Some of the items discussed. The clarification needs to be forthcoming, as a recycling center is not a permitted use in the industrial zone, and an approval by our joint land use board would be required. Just to do a little bit more clarification on that, recycling, is it really recycling what they're doing, or is what they're doing light industrial in terms of remanufacturing paint? Because it has to do with product. So it's a whole classification thing, and it really needs to be worked out because it's not accurately reflected on their amendment. This facility would be for latex processing only. Oils and solvents are not intended to be received at this facility, and any erroneously received would be a de minimis quantity, a gallon or two, and transferred off-site. So they're not looking to do any oil there. At least that's what they told us. Our residents' traffic concerns are a borough issue and are not created by the subject company. The chief of police, when he was there, they noted that there was other items that were going on there that they've actually since addressed to help mitigate part of the traffic problems that are there. So that is recognized. They also said that they are going to hold an open house for the residents to see what they are actually doing, to have people come in there. I've been in a lot of manufacturing facilities. I work in one, to be quite honest. That place is pretty clean. And it became evident very early in the site visit that what they're applying for and their paperwork did not match what they were doing at all. So it's a problem. There's also a letter crafted by our DPW supervisor, Lenny Vidal, which is a follow-up to the public meetings details, which details some of our concerns also. I would imagine that the amended application would necessitate another round of public meetings. Thank you for your consideration. This is what was sent to the state. Attached to that was this letter. On behalf of the Borough of Middlesex, this is a response in reference to the proposed county solid waste plan amendment at 207 Pond Avenue as a Class D recycling center. The Borough Council and residents have several concerns with approving this facility as Class D recycling. Residents are concerned of air quality, potential health risks, and environmental impacts. Additionally, pollutants can affect local ecosystems and property values. Safety issues regarding fires and explosion at the site, and ability for our fire department and OEM to handle such challenges. Could we restrict Class D to mainly collecting latex paints, no solvents, no oil-based paints? The smell associated with the operation of this facility. Who is responsible for monitoring the day-to-day operations, make sure they are compliant? There are already 8 such facilities located within Middlesex Borough. Is there a threshold as to how many the town can accommodate? Due to the fact the facility is in a flood zone, who is responsible for the cleanup process? A recycling center isn't a permitted use in the industrial zone. The J-Love approval is required. These were actually forwarded within the time frame that we were allowed. There was an initial comment that we had received an email over in June. We did some checking around the borough. No one seems to remember getting this email, and when it was followed up with by one of the town people, I think it was the chief, I'm not really sure. There was one email, it was kind of innocuous, that comes in the middle of a whole bunch of other emails. There was no receipt required, no red receipt. So, I mean, they could say we got it, we say we didn't, but the fact that the paper copy came up with the application enabled us to start the ball rolling. We didn't miss anything. It would have been nice if we got the emails earlier, because the town could have been a little bit more informed at that time. But we are not behind the 8 ball here, and we've actually sent in enough items for them to really have to reconsider. At this point, our expectation is that they're going to have to reapply, because the application that they filled out is incorrect. And then they tried to say they didn't read it, or they weren't exactly sure, but the bottom line is, what they're saying they want to do and what that application said were two different things. And that has to be rectified before anything else is going to happen. Regarding the traffic issues, they've been highlighted to the chief of police. He knows about it. They've already started taking some actions. I know there is actually a paper street in the middle of that which needed to be lined off, which Lenny, I know you've done already with the crew. Appreciate that. That is where we stand on that subject right now. If you have any other questions, we can certainly answer them, but I think we covered pretty much everything, but that's okay. The second item I want to talk about tonight is that, and this is regarding health coverage, because we're at the very beginning of like the budget process here. I mean, it hasn't started yet, but this is prior to it even starting. And what's kicked this in gear is, I've heard that the state health insurance plan is going to go up 16.3% next year. All right? That is approximately a 50% increase in the last 4 years. This is an email that went out to Michael LaPlace and was copied to Michael Conahan, Chris the attorney, Linda Chismar, Carolyn Benson, and Kevin Doty. With a lean year approaching and contract negotiations on the horizon, it is important as part of any negotiation that we do our proper due diligence to ensure we are doing our best for our residents and our employees. It is not appropriate for us just to accept the increase and move on. As a start, I have a letter to send to Horizon requesting our claims history. This will be the key piece of information that anyone coming in will use to bring forth a quote. It is important to start now, as this information takes a couple of months to process. I intend on sending this email tomorrow, which is tomorrow, Wednesday. I've been informed that in order to get the best quote possible, it is best to interview associates and then select one to process a quote. I would like to create a committee of Michael LaPlace, Michael Conahan, Kevin Doty, Linda Chismar, Carolyn Benson, and myself to follow the process through and present a recommendation to the council. As a start, I have two brokers to be brought in for initial interviews. Certainly, if you have other qualified candidates, they can be brought in as well to round out the decision process. I have a representative from Capital Benefits, who I know does a lot of the PBAs in the state, and Acrisure, who does a lot of the companies and businesses and municipalities around Middlesex County. We should meet prior to getting the claim information. That's where we're going with that one. Outside of that, they're the two main ones that I have for this. Everything else is rolling along. Council President Conahan.
All right, thanks, Mayor. I want to thank Chief Ken Bartuk. Ken, all right, I didn't see if you. I don't know if you left. For your presentation tonight of the entire fire department, as well as thanks to your team. I know Sean's here, Eric's not here, but everybody else that helped you to contribute. Thank you again to the entire fire department. Hopefully Rich comes back, we can get we can see his stuff, and if not, we can bring him back at some point.
We'll be at next time.
Maybe the next one. I want to thank Kristen Bennett for her 2 years of service on the Parks Improvement Committee. She'll be missed. I'm excited for Claire, you and your entire team, for the Green Team Subcommittee. I know it's something that you've worked on pretty hard. Before you leave, Claire, I have something else from Piscataway, just about what they're doing. I got a copy of it from a friend of mine. I wanted to give it to you. Okay, so the library is in partnership with our American Legion Post, and again, they're hosting for the second year their Legacy Lawn program. The program honors all Middlesex residents that have served in the military or are in active duty currently. Applications to be included this year are being accepted up until October 21st. The Friends of the Library are hosting another jazz concert. They've had several this year. This one's featuring Ken Leland, Roots of American Jazz. It's going to be on Sunday, October 20th at 3 p.m. It's at the community room. I wanted to announce, if it's good with you now, Mayor, our next pillar of Middlesex. It's going to be Jack Costa on November 26th. That's our only meeting in November. I want to thank our clerk, Linda Chismar, for all of her hard work in the sale of Block 17, Lot 306. I want to thank Councilman DeCino and Lenny Vidal, our DPW super, for all the time and energy. They did a lot of investigating around this Pond Avenue application. Recreation, I know Melissa's here tonight, is again hosting its haunted house at the rec center. Very big event last year. 2 different nights this year, both next week, October 16th and 17th, back to back. That's Wednesday and Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Free admission. It includes a pumpkin decorating contest, photo ops, candy, sweet treats, all that good stuff. So again, next Wednesday and Thursday. Please support our Lincoln Firehouse when they host a coin toss this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the intersection of Mountain and Lincoln. I look forward to our first town hall meeting, Mayor, on Tuesday, October 29th.
Yeah, I was going to just
At
bring that
7
up again.
p.m. It'll be in this room, 7 p.m. More details to come. I don't know the last time we've done one. It's been a long, long time. Maybe you know, Kevin, but long time.
God.
So,
15 maybe?
yeah, the format will be different, but again, that's just mark your calendars, October 29th, 7 p.m. here. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Carmen's not here. Councilman DeCino.
Just a couple things. As far as the environmental, I want to welcome Andrea Murphy. We swore her in on Friday, which she was excited about that. Also, September 28th, the rain garden, which we talked about. Several of us from the commission were there, planted over 150 plants. It really came out really nice.
Yeah,
It was going to rain a little bit, but it was great. Again, spearheaded by Claire, which is a wonderful person. I don't know where she finds the time to do what she does, but she's great. Also, October 5th, there was a backyard composting. I wasn't there. I had to take my wife to the airport, but it looked like it was good. October 19th is the tree giveaway. Our next meeting is October 15th. That's for as far as DPW, I talked to Lenny. As far as crack filling, 11 streets were crack filled: Bay Place, Fitzsimmons, Fulton, North Lincoln, Howlett Pond, Market, Grandview, between Fitzsimmons and Stevenson, Chestnut, and half of West 2nd and Warrenbrook. Also, leaf bags are now available. Please bring your coupon. Yes, Claire, they did put the piece with it, so compost your grass instead of bagging it, but we'll see what that does. Curbside bulk pickup ends October 30th. If you need it, call it out, get it in. And they're still doing potholes. And as far as the DPW garage, I worked there 36 years, and the same windows were in that building when I started. Finally, they were just done over. They're single pane windows, and I remember that. The stories, I can't even tell the stories.
He's done a great job.
Place has been painted. This is probably the second or third time I've seen it painted because there's so much stuff in there you can't. And finally, the floors are getting done over with some epoxy, so
Is that done, or is that done?
now it's
Thursday.
sorry. But the day that we're off, they're going to be doing the floors.
Okay.
But it's a big improvement there, finally. So we're moving forward. That's all I have.
That's it? Claire, I know you've been taking reservations for your trees. How many did you get?
About 50.
50? Wow, that's pretty good.
So if you want a free tree, let me know.
You got, other than that, Lenny's going to be busy digging a lot of little holes around. You have about, what, 300?
Yeah.
Yeah, all different types, too. So if you're interested in the tree, now's the time to get it. Councilman Doty.
Okay, we have a guest that's going to do the fire report. Sean, you're up. You're one of the firemen who donates his time. You can see what they do extra for this community. And before he starts, just your mailers, if you got a mailer, haven't mailed it in, please mail it back to them and support them. And it goes by your district. You're in a certain district, so it goes to whatever firehouse is in your area. That's who you're supporting. Sean, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Residents, my name is Sean Young. I'm Deputy Chief of the Middlesex Fire Department. I've been on the fire department for 23 years. Following is a rundown of the calls for the month of September. We had 38 calls in service. A few bullet points. September 2nd, at 0600 hours, Middlesex Fire Department was dispatched to a cover assignment to the borough of Piscataway, or township of Piscataway, while they operated a structure fire. We responded with engine 82-1 and covered Piscataway for just about 3 hours. September 11th, 15:52 hours, Middlesex Fire Department was dispatched to a cover assignment to South Plainfield Borough while they operated at a structure fire. Our ladder truck 82 responded to South Plainfield. They stood by for just about under an hour while being released back to the Borough of Middlesex. They were then activated to a structure fire with possible entrapment to the Borough of Bound Brook. Engine 82-3 responded and was shortly cleared due to a very quick knock on the fire and Bound Brook by the Bound Brook Fire Department. September 13th, 1900 hours, an employee of Ferrara's Pizzeria Pub located at 275 Lincoln Boulevard reported building fire. Chief Bartok arrived on scene. Once on location, he confirmed that there was fire venting from a kitchen hood vent located on the roof of the building with a moderate smoke condition inside. Due to an unknown type of fire in the commercial building, the first alarm assignment was transmitted as a precaution for the extra manpower and equipment. Captain Brian Maddox was established operations and had interior crews check the pizza oven, vent, and the roof for extension. The second crew was ordered to the roof and extinguished the vent fire with a dry chem extinguisher. Fire was held to the vent system, and the scene was turned over to Middlesex County Fire Marshal's office for further investigation. September 25th, 0800 hours. An employee of Bakeland Avenue Business reported an unknown type of fire behind the building located at 460 Lincoln Boulevard. Assistant Chief Truman arrived on scene to find a large pile of debris of pallets behind a fire, on fire behind the building, impinging a walk-in utility trailer. Engine 82-3 arrived on location with the help of all 4 Middlesex Borough DPW employees that are also Middlesex Fire Department members, and they were able to extinguish the fire before it spread to a trailer. The scene was turned over to Middlesex County Fire Marshals. September 28, 16:39 hours, passerby reported a vehicle on fire at 1003 Lincoln Boulevard. Deputy Chief Young arrived on location, located a fully involved vehicle behind the lock gate. Entry was gained to the property. The vehicle was extinguished without incident. The scene was turned over to Middlesex County Fire Marshals. Middlesex Fire Department members attended the 9/11 ceremony at Victor Proud Park. During the month, just to highlight some of the calls, out of the 38, there's 1 building fire, 1 outside rubbish fire, 1 dumpster fire, 1 motor vehicle accident with injuries, 4 motor vehicle accidents without injuries, 1 unauthorized burn, 2 cover assignments out of town, 1 smoke condition and or odor of smoke, 1 hazmat released without any hazmat, so it was unfounded. To date, Middlesex Fire Department, as of today, while we were out doing our schools for the Fire Prevention Day, we had 3 calls, which brings us to a total of 347 calls for 2024 at this time. That is all I have.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
I also have the court report. For August, 369 tickets, 25 parking, 344 moving, 15 DWIs, 10 criminal complaints, 7 local ordinances, 5 zoning. There was 4 court sessions, 2 in person, 2 virtual, 255 defendants, 89 cases were deposed during court, 6 of the DWIs were deposed. Total assets fines were $36,212.99. The borough's portion is $19,569.73. That's the court. I'd like to also mention that our chief of police is not paying attention over there. He'll be leaving the country with the executive board for the state chiefs of police at the end of this month, going to Italy and meeting with a whole, I'm reading the email, there's a whole gaggle of different levels of organization over there. Anti-mafia investigation and everything. Oh my God, you're really going to see a whole alphabet again, aren't you? It should be interesting. So he'll be gone for a week, and luckily his wife gets a vacation while he's working. So she's happy about that. I just wanted to mention that. We'll be in good hands with Kevin Komsky. He's
good man. having that
It's an
place.
honor just getting picked to go on
Yeah,
that.
that's incredible. He's part of the executive board at the state level, so he's lucky enough to go to this stuff, learn more about what's going on in the world, crime
Benefit.
fighting.
And it's a benefit for us,
Yes,
believe me.
definitely.
Yeah. Anything
Thank
else?
you. Nope, that's it. Thank you, Chief.
Councilman Quinn?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight? Okay, Council...
One quick one. Shade Tree Commission meets on Thursday night. There you go.
All right. All right, one other, I just have Councilman Rex is not here, but I do have some information. This is from the town, this is on the recycling and stuff like that. Activity, just so you know, Middlesex Borough, the biweekly single-family units, they go to 4,175. That's what they do. Of what they've had right now is, one of the things that they do check is that out of the units, they do a survey. So out of the survey, they checked on 625, of which 451 actually had recycling out. So our hit rate is like 72%, which is so-so, if I had to say that, because we're 9th out of 17. We should be a little bit higher in terms of the recycling. However, you sit there and you think that how much stuff could they really be putting out? And this is a recap for August. 134 tons of single-stream residential recycling was done in that month. And, you know, we were talking about the grass before, and I have to say, the grass and the brush, Claire, you're onto something. When you look at the numbers, we're the third highest in Middlesex County out of all of these, and we're only behind Edison and Monroe of the stuff that gets sent in. And there was none for leaves. Actually, someone Carteret had a little bit in leaves, like 8 tons. But we had 35 tons of brush, and we had 66 tons of grass that went in during August. So, you know, you multiply that by a whole year, it's quite a bit of stuff that's actually going out and recycling. And if they can find a way to compost, or maybe we can find a way with some of our dead areas around town to forego some of that, maybe we can do a little bit better. But I know, Claire, you're only working on 900 things at this one time, so you know we'll leave that one for a little bit. Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to also thank our Superintendent of Public Works, Lenny Vidal, for coordinating with the Mayor, Councilman Messino, Chief Geist, and representatives of GDB International, who is the applicant for the Class C Recycling Center that's proposed for 207 Pond Avenue, that set up an on-site tour for us last week of the proposed operations site. The applicant will be inviting members of the public on site, and will also be pursuing local, county, and state approvals as needed. I'd also like to thank the Police Department and Chief Geist for giving a concentrated effort to looking at all the circulation and parking issues that the neighborhood brought to our attention. It's been kind of an ongoing problem. So I really appreciate the whole team effort. The Middlesex Public Library Director, Chrissy George, has reported to me that the development of our new local history room has slowed down a bit recently, and this is mostly due to other building-related issues being addressed at the library. So the grand opening of the local history room will either be later this month or more likely in November. Keep it posted on that. Council resolutions on the agenda this evening include authorization for the execution of an agreement for the sale of surplus borough-owned property, which is Lot 17 of Block 306, located at the northwesterly corner of West Pershing and Madison Avenue. The winning bid was $391,000. Other resolutions are for the purchase of police department equipment in the amount of $8,481.50, the appointment of a temporary court administrator, and for changes for the status of certain properties under the senior citizen, disabled person, and the veteran tax deduction. This evening, there's an agenda workshop discussion scheduled where we'll touch on the topic of the Cedar Avenue Railroad crossing and our safety concerns there. In executive session this evening, we'll be discussing a police department personnel matter as well as the proposed restructuring of the recreation department. I'd also like to mention, again, thank you to the Middlesex Police Department, in particular Sergeant Jolene Oricchio. There's a food drive underway, and she's been working really hard on it. Other members of the department have it as well. The drive is running until November 4th, and there's drop-off locations all over town. Best Physical Therapy, the Blue Jay Cafe, here in Borough Hall, right in our main hallway, at the Middlesex Elks, the police department itself, the library, Recreation Senior Center, Dom's Automotive, Superfood Fresh Supermarket, and Super Fresh Middlesex Supermarket. And you can also bring it to one of the schools. So it couldn't really be more convenient. Let's see. I also wanted to note that we are currently advertising for a full-time zoning and code enforcement officer. The applications will be accepted until the end of the month. Thank you.
That's it? Okay, last but not least, just to throw it out there, make sure that you keep the date for the town hall on your calendar. Please come in. We're trying to solicit, and, a lot of times we've heard during the course of the year that, you don't really listen to the residents before the budget goes out and is put together. Well, that's part of the purpose of this meeting, is to, try and get our finger on the pulse and see what people are feeling these days. Okay, let's open it up for the privilege of the floor. I'd like a motion to open.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone wishing to step forward, state your name and address. We'll do our best to answer whatever questions you have.
Good evening once again. My name is Tim Stewart, 345 Main Street. I'm here to talk about the recycling. I'm in agreement with some of the points that you brought out. But there's a copy of MTOR period right here. The information that I am going to present to you is publicly available information which is obtained from the internet. Anything that I am quoting, as in the documents that I've sent to you, Mr. Rex, and the superintendent, also had identified in there where the sources were. For those of you, I don't know what the correct procedure is here. I made some extra copies of things that I had sent. I don't know if I can hand them out or if I have to go procedurally so others can follow through.
Hey, Kevin, do me a favor. Grab a few. If anyone else out there, if there's any extras.
And while we're waiting for this to be distributed, there are some things that need to be defined so we understand what's going on. In the open meeting where Carol, gosh, I'm going to screw up her last name. But anyway, Carol was here.
You're going to have to talk into the mic.
You can put it, you can move it if my name is. Okay, in the meeting, the open meeting that we had at 12 o'clock here, it was October 2nd, it was brought up, and this has also been mentioned in the Facebook, that there was a submission for a Class B type of recycling permit. Carol, when I brought up that concern, she said, well, where did you hear from that? I quickly tracked it down to the Facebook chatter, but I did find it when I went to their website, and in their website was a typo. The 6:30 meeting, somebody typed a B instead of a Class D. So once again, there is no Class B request that's going on. Now, some things that need to be understood here is that we need to understand what's going on here, and again, there's a kind of, I'm going to say, the address is 207 Pond Avenue, Middlesex, New Jersey. The owner of the business is called 207 Pond Middlesex Property Limited Liability Corporation, LLC. The realtor that leases the property out to GBD and so forth is Lee and Associates. So those are things that we need to know about. And then there's another company which is called LS Held. LS Held is a consulting company which was contacted by GBD to produce the information that would be used for submitting permit, and answering requests for information and requests for proposal. And talking about events that have happened, it seems that like back in May 14th, there was some activity going on in which there was a transfer of information between Carol and also GBD. and where they were answering questions. One of the things that we wanted to make sure about is that this is purely a latex processing plant. It does not include oil-based paint. Now, then let me just hold off for a minute here. So, who is this guy that's talking to you, and does he have his marbles in the right place? Okay. In 1973 to 1975, I worked for a chemical processing engineering company called Boeing Engineering. I was a lead technician for test and development of fluid bed dryers, spray dryers, flash dryers, calciners, electrostatic precipitators, and so forth. We processed chemicals for union carbide, cyanamide, and so forth, and designed those processing equipment for them. When we're looking at, we'll talk about euphemisms real quick. A euphemism is, once upon a time we had the Department of War. We now call it the Department of Defense. It sounds a little bit nicer. We talk about recycling. Recycling sounds pretty good. But really, what are we talking about GBD? We're talking about this is a chemical processing facility. Really? Right? Okay, let's talk about this. What's going on there? They're accepting paint from different sources, right? And then they're going to check it, mix it together, blend it. And then they're going to add an antibacterial agent into the paint so it doesn't grow mold and so forth. And they're going to take the product that you received and they're going to create a new product that didn't exist before. So that means that I can mix paint from Bear, or I can mix paint from, I don't know, Glidden and all this stuff, put it all together, throw it in there. I don't know about the formulas for the various types of paint, the compatibilities and so forth, what antibacterial stuff was in the original product, and what's going to be put into it after when they produce this product. They're going to produce a paint that they're going to take and they're going to then market that. So there's some concerns there, right? The concerns are, well, okay, let's take a look. Where am I? The facility at 207, and again, I'm not certain if this is true, I'm just reporting what I found. The facility was built in 1967, right? The sprinkler system, they identified as wet water. I don't know if there's anything as dry water, but they said wet water here. City sewer, right? The zoning according to this is LI, which I assume to be light industry. I don't know what zoning laws are, as you guys can probably figure that stuff out. So my concern was when we were talking about oil and things like that, and they can be contaminated materials that come in here. But if it's a water sprinkling system and it's an oil fire, don't they have to have some sort of containment area where they're putting this non-latex paint stuff? Don't they have to have a special fire suppression system? Maybe a CO2 halogen, or I've got halon, yeah, thank you, halon, or something like that. We're talking about a building currently occupied by GDB who is recycling plastic. So there's particulate matter in that air there, plastic, right? And if there, God forbid, is a fire, you know, how is it contained? Is it enclosed in a wall? Don't know. That brings up another point which would be of interest. Okay, let's play for a moment that we're inside this processing plant and we get the paint off the truck, and what they're supposed to do according to the document that was submitted to Middlesex Waste, they open up the can and they're supposed to smell it to see if it smells good. Now, really, is that, you know, a scientific way of finding out is it good or it isn't good and so forth? I'd hate to be that person who's sticking his nose in the can and pay 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. I have in my hand here a label that came off a latex paint by Bear. And I'll be real quick. It says, warning cancer, reproductive harm, www.t65warnings.ca.gov. Warning causes eye and skin irritation, may cause respiratory tract irritation, contains diuron, something other than bentonate and crystalline silica, avoiding contact with skin, eyes, etc. So I don't know if smelling something, you know, my olfactory, because I'm old, maybe not as sensitive as somebody else that's younger, but that doesn't seem to be a good Kool-Aid acid test to figure out if it's good or not. Where am I going with this? Okay, so you get the stuff off the truck, you open up the paint, yeah, it looks good, okay, let's mix it together. And they're going to be blending like, blue paint, purple paint, white paint. It doesn't matter, even if it's just pure white paint. We're blending Behr paint, Sherwin-Williams paint, different formulas, different solvents, all that stuff together. Then, let's say that, okay, I'm now processing the blue and purple paint. And what am I going to do? I'm going to put it into a bag, right? And I'm going to mix it around to make sure everything is all mixed and it's uniform. I'm going to add this antibacterial stuff in there to make sure it doesn't grow mold, right? I'm going to then dispense it and put it into some sort of a container, right? Well, now there's a batch change, and we're switching over to white. So now we're going to switch over to white. What do I have to do? Oh, geez, yes, I guess I have to clean out the back. I can have purple, blue paint in there while I'm processing white. So what do? Do I take the fire hose and rinse it down and so forth? Whoa, wait a minute. Where is that going? Oh, well, we're just going to wash it down into the sewer, the public sewer lines. Oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound too healthy. That doesn't sound good. In chemical processing plants, when you're processing chemicals, you have holding tanks and sediment tanks. You have a specific way to get rid of your waste, in which you put this into a tank, and the particulate matter by gravity, which settles down to the bottom, can then be, you siphon off the water stuff, and you get down to the solid stuff, and you clean that up, send it on its way. But you don't include it in with this sort of water. Oh, well, wait a minute. Are you mean to tell me that you don't paint your rooms in your house, and you don't take your paintbrush and you don't wash it out in the sink? Yeah, I do. You're right. Wait a minute. I also don't process 1 to 2 tons of paint a day, or up to 15 tons of paint a day, and I don't know what effect it's going to have when I'm pushing it down a public sewer line with all these antibacterial things. I don't know what happens when this paint reacts and it coats the pipelines for sewers and so forth. But I would have to think that there had to be some sort of a process, some sort of a system that would safely collect this thing and so forth. So I looked through the processes and so forth to see what was going on, and this really doesn't sound too scientific. There are some things that are, okay, we just accidentally got some paint that was contaminated. We got something that when we were mixing things that it's just not going to work. We're going to have to put that into a special storage area. So they have a special storage area in which they save this stuff for 90 days. Oh, wait a minute. A special storage area for 90 days. Is that every 90 days you just empty it out? Is it 90 days? This one came in July 1st, so 90 days from that batch goes out, but the rest remains. What happens if there is some sort of action? Well, you know what? I had a half a can of latex paint, and I got some acetone here that I don't want anybody looking at it. Dump it in, close it up, send it out to them. Didn't pass the sniff test. Remember we talked about a sniff test and it smelled good? Well, I mean, how do you differentiate between something that's hidden in that paint? It baffles the mind. But at any rate, so what am I saying? I am in agreement, well, first and foremost, in our community we have some outstanding people. You are a blessing to us, and all of you council members. I'm not affiliated with any action groups or anything like that. I am a resident here in town. I'm just as concerned as everyone else. I am concerned about our taxes and so forth, and having industry to help offset the costs of things that are happening here. I applaud your efforts and so forth. But I think that very much in alignment with what you had to say, we have to go back there to the state, and we have to tell them this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable because the process is flowing. Let me regress just a minute here. If they had to put in special holding tanks in this place, then I would assume that they would have to go back to the owner of the property because they're making revisions to the physical structure of the place. There's electrical, whatever concerns. What about ventilation? You know, these guys aren't supposed to be breathing this stuff. This is not good for you. It gives you brain damage, right? So, I mean, there are things that have to happen. There must be some liability that the owner of the nobody has to give the blessing. So yeah, you can do it, and this is what we're going to do. In the document that was sent out to Middlesex Waste, they had a brief diagram of what the floor looked like. There was an architect, I guess, I'll find it here. There was an architect group, DPCSS, we had surveyors. LS Hell, the gentleman who was there is a project manager, and I didn't get his name out of here anyhow. But he made suggestions about what the floor would look like, where things are going to be. These special holding rooms, is this an open environment? Is it enclosed with walls? It's not included in here. And the thing that I found was most interesting that DPCSS said here, no, equipment, materials, and storage areas based solely on information supplied by the direction of JS Health. JS Health, that means we need environmental scientists, engineers, and so forth. When we're processing paint and doing all this stuff, you know, do we have qualified people there that are monitoring the process to make sure it's working and there's no activities going on that are out of control? There's so many things that we have to think about. So I'm going to be ending it because I know you guys don't want to get out of here after 8 o'clock. But it is an honor and privilege to be a part of this community, and I hope to be a good service to all of you.
Thank you. You know, one of the things is that the information on their application is incorrect. So they're almost back to square one to start all over again because it just doesn't match up to what they're doing. So that's why it's gonna have to start from the beginning and go all the way through and ask the questions. But I have to tell you, when we were there, and one of the things that brought it out, that their quantities of VOCs and all the rest of that were non-existent. Because when we were there, in their hazardous waste storage area, which is where the 90 days comes from, you have 90 days from the time it starts accumulating to the time you have to get rid of it. And it's easy to spot. There's yellow stickers. I know exactly what they look like. I have them all over my plant. There was not one yellow sticker. There was nothing there that had a single thing of VOCs in there. Nothing.
Kevin Rosinski, 441 Fairview Ave, Middlesex. One thing I've brought up several times over the years, which could have put a stop to where suddenly there was this lengthy conversation regarding the chemical hazmat. Why isn't there an auto-generated response on borough emails? Like when I send an email, why don't I get a response and say my email's been received? If that was in place, then we know exactly when they sent the email and whether or not it was received and who received it. I just sent something to Mr. LaPlace 2 weeks, actually it was immediately after the last meeting. I asked a simple question regarding how many citations the code enforcer had written. And I still haven't been given that information. When I spoke to him last on the phone, I had said to him I sent an email right after the meeting. He said, well, I'm not sure, maybe you got mixed. If you did, you didn't, I don't know, didn't see it, whatever. Why isn't there an auto-generated response that says your email's been received? It's easy.
It's easy. Didn't
Right.
put one on.
What's that?
So I don't have one on mine.
Nobody does.
I know that.
And if you did, then when they sent their email, if they didn't send it, you'd be able to say,
You're right.
we have record.
Listen, you're right. It's a good suggestion.
So, and I've been making it for years.
Right.
You
asked me about that last time, last
It's a good suggestion, Kevin. I'll give you that.
I think it's just an adjustment in our email system.
It's astounding. It's a simple thing. And then none of this would be happening. Because
Well, there's none of what?
Well, all this now confusion over whether or not they sent the email when they sent it, they didn't send it,
At the end of the day, Kevin, it didn't matter. We were there on time, and we have our response in on time. But it's a good suggestion to put an auto return on there.
And then is there any reason that meeting that took place last week is not on the borough calendar?
Yeah, because we didn't find out to the last minute. We probably could have put it on there, but it was kind of short notice.
So you didn't know they were coming to the courtroom to have that meeting until you got short notice on
You
that?
might find this hard to believe, Kevin, but I don't sleep here and I don't check the schedule every day. You know, I didn't know.
So between everybody, so no one was aware, no one on council was aware that that meeting would be taking place when it took place.
When the document that we got led us to believe that it was more county driven than the borough driven. And once all the questions started coming up, we dove in.
Okay. And Michael, do you have an answer for me yet?
Well, it was a county hearing being hosted by the municipality. When it was brought to our attention, we put it on the website, and
It was the day before. It
Kevin,
wasn't on
that's
the
what-
calendar until the day before.
we did it. We put it on as soon as we were aware of it.
And how did you find out about it?
I don't recall. I have to check.
It was
my
off
notes.
Facebook.
I don't recall. I can check my
Okay,
notes.
all right. Well, that would be my guess. Is it all got a lot of
If
attention?
it had been a
Everything was put on Facebook.
municipal-sponsored hearing, it would have been posted as soon as it was scheduled.
And then, do you have information as to how many citations that are written by our present code enforcement in the last
If you
year?
could resend that email to me, because I
Okay,
don't remember
all right.
ever reading it.
I was here 5 to 6 weeks.
Kevin, I apologize. I don't have it.
I-
I will get you the information if you wouldn't.
You don't want me to have the information.
No, Kevin, that's a ridiculous statement.
I have it. I know somebody, I have a family member who works in the same capacity in another town. That information either should be at your fingertips.
Kevin, I
or
just
is.
offered to get you the information.
That's what you told me 4 weeks
If you
ago.
would do me the courtesy of resending the email, I'll get right on it.
But then I'm going to send it, and we're not going to have any notice whether or not you receive it.
I'm telling you in a public hearing that I will respond to the email.
Okay, that's what happened last time I was here and asked for information. So that's why it comes up about stuff like this, companies moving in now, all this stuff. People are uptight the way they are because every single issue regarding hazmat has not been handled in the way we were told it was going to be handled. It just hasn't. That's the history. These 2 big projects they had with all that contaminated dirt, those trucks were tracking it all over town. All over town. Protocol is those trucks are supposed to be rinsed down before they leave the site. Anybody who lived in town saw what was going on. Nobody addressed it, it didn't change.
Are you talking about the property on Bakeland Avenue?
There's the one over here on Mountain, and then when they did the one on Lincoln. Lincoln had the mud running right down Lincoln Boulevard, in the world of storm drains and everything. So this is why people want to know about what's going on with hazmat, because every single time there's been an issue regarding something with hazmat, it has not been handled in the way that we were told it was going to be handled.
Okay, one of the things though, in this particular case, this might not even touch the dial as far as being hazmat. They might not even show up as a small quantity generator.
And the other thing is another one. Have we adopted a floodplain ordinance yet? That's a no. So we don't have a floodplain ordinance, which would help all the matters that are coming up. The first responders, we see what's going on down there in Asheville. One of the points of the floodplain ordinance is to make sure that people have things secured, tied down, there's nothing loose, there's no chemicals floating around, that these guys have to put their life at risk. They're driving some new piece of equipment through some water and have no idea that there's a felled tree that's been laying there for 5, 6, 10 years. That's all part of a floodplain ordinance. And with a floodplain ordinance, you can then impose yourself on this new company because you can say, look, your chemicals need to be handled in such a way. I'll let you guys go ahead.
Was touched on the floodplain. We've also updated floodplain rates periodically. I don't remember the last time we did it. It was updated.
All right. I was just checking.
We can also check with the engineer if it's up for that.
No, I'm checking on I was asking about the floodplain. I know we have one, but I don't think it's up to, I'm not sure on that. We did, we have,
We were the only town involved in the Green Book, the flood control plan with the flood wall. We were the only town that did not have one. We were the only town.
that I gotta check on, Kevin. Don't know.
All right, I don't expect everybody to know everything all the time, but some of these points.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. You're absolutely, we'll take a look at that.
We'll take a look. I mean, usually the stormwater ordinances touch on the floodplain, so we have to see how the one ties into the other. I don't know.
Because the other is you can put into a floodplain ordinance that if your business handles hazmat, that it needs to be stored in a certain way, and you're susceptible to an inspection once a month. You can put that right in the floodplain ordinance.
Usually the stormwater handles that.
Is that in the stormwater, Preston?
Probably. I don't know. I didn't look. I mean, I read it, but I don't remember everything I read.
Because the other thing with the floodplain ordinance is that insurance companies will pay if you upgrade certain things, if it's required by the floodplain ordinance. So the town says, look, if you get flooded, you need to move your electrical panel to the second floor or higher. You need to move your utilities to a garage or higher. You need to move your central air conditioning up 5 feet. If the floodplain ordinance states that, the insurance company will pay for a homeowner to make those adjustments because it's in their best interest so that they don't continuously pay to replace the same water meter. But it needs to be in the floodplain ordinance and you need to have one.
Okay. Point taken.
Thank you.
Dave Volkevich, 240 Hazelwood. I don't have much to say, Mayor. I just wanted to say that, Mr. Corsini, this is a public meeting, correct?
Yeah, yes, 100%.
Well, it's my understanding of public meeting law, there's not supposed to be private conversations out there amongst the officials, that we're supposed to be able to hear everything in the audience. This goes on periodically at these meetings where there are private conversations going on here. And I really, like just now, Mayor turned to you, I have no idea what you said to him or what he said back to you. And I don't believe that's proper. Is that proper?
He can seek counsel from me independently.
He can seek counsel, but that's what executive sessions are for. This is a public session right now. And I don't believe, like Mr. Casino can turn to Mr. Doty and have a private conversation. That's not allowed. So why can anyone turn to
I don't think that that's strictly in I mean, it could be, that's something they could put in the bylaws. But I don't think it's strictly...
I'm not getting into bylaws or anything. It's just, I've been covering meetings, as you know, for decades. And that's always my understanding, that anything that's said here, we're supposed to be able to hear out the audience. Unless you guys go into executive session, and anything's fair game there. That's all I want to say. I don't think you're really permitted to be having these private conversations. This goes on periodically, and I just don't think it's proper.
Bruce Sanders, 10 minutes out. First, I did some work with EPA. They should hire you because I know what you're talking about, groundwater, surface water, the chemical interactions, the way they're supposed to process it. You described everything in a nice, meaningful manner so that people here can understand it. So, commend you on that. I'm a little upset, and I'll give you the 3 reasons. When I came up here one time, I said, we need to put on our thinking hats beyond what goes on every day with what I'll call a rogue governor. If things happen, we need to have an idea of what we can do. And one of the things you said to me, Jack, was that we'll have a pulse before it happens. And I know it's a small town, you can't have a pulse over everything. But we look at the land sale out from under us from Middlesex County. And thank you, Michael, for keeping us up to date on that and finding it for the first time. We look at the tax thing that we went through that was a surprise to all of us. And we realized we didn't handle that right. Now, I come to these meetings to learn what's going on in my town. And I want to know before so that we can have this discussion. And I came to the meeting, what was it, September, whatever. 2 days later, my friend said, what's this going on with the Pond Avenue stuff? And I'm like, wait a second. They're going to hire out here, because I'm sure they paid something to come here in Middlesex County. Middlesex County said they sent a letter. I kind of agree, but even if you did that thing whereby the email comes back, we received it, we still don't know if somebody read it and is actionable on it. So that's not going to necessarily solve the problem. So this is the third thing that, 2 of the things, the tax and this thing, I think should have been addressed by you when you give your presentation of what's going on in Middlesex. I don't believe somebody didn't get that email because the county should be on that. And this is the second time we've had a problem with the county. So doing something underneath us. So somebody has to be on Middlesex County and say, what are you guys trying to do? Because we're missing the boat here. This is the second time with Middlesex County. So I don't know if we need a liaison to the county. Do we have such a thing? Should there be such a thing? But I want to come to these meetings. I want to find out about this pond thing. And then I don't think the town would have much of a problem with it. Although I will say
knowing where that's at, and it's in a residential section, versus on the other side of the tracks, which is still a residential section to Piscataway, but, I know all the chemical reactions that can happen, and you've seen what happened in, I guess it was Georgia, just recently. It doesn't take much to light something up. And if they're not doing the process in Gladstone, you guys all found that before, and it sounded like Middlesex County was going to say here. So I think we need to get more on top of what's going on around us, or question why we're missing those things. So that's my comment.
Yeah, that was actually a large part of the conversation that we had when we were with the county that night. It was like, they send a bunch of stuff out and they slide these things in the middle sometimes, and you try and read every single one, but you can't catch them all. But the thing,
anyway, this road had to be reserved before our meeting prior to. I've got to believe that. Middlesex County didn't just say 2 days before, hey, we're going to have a meeting on such and such at your thing. Somebody here had to know they're reserving this.
Yeah, you're right.
And that should have been in the meeting. Middlesex County is going to reserve this group to talk over this. And that should have been in somebody's review, in my opinion. So then, I'm not surprised, and I can deal with it or whatever, but, I'm glad we picked up on this before it got too far, because down the sewer, like you said, exactly is how it would happen to clean it up. Goes right down the sewer line, and we pay for that too, because of the former mayor was talking about the sub-tree.
the VOCs and all that, sure.
Yeah. So, may I please make a quick comment?
Sure.
A real quick comment. It was a learning curve for me to figure out how to maneuver this uncharted minefield to find information and so forth. There are various governmental agencies that you have to deal with. There's a thing that is called SWAC, which is something waste. Mr. Rex sits on that board too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a SWAC meeting on July 9th, but that wasn't communicated to you guys. It was going to be something like that. We have Carol, who is working for the county waste management and so forth. So we've got two different places that we're dealing with, and the communication within the government, outside of this council, is non-existent. Or if it is, it's terrible. They're not talking to one another. I honestly believe that if the SWAC committee said, hey, look, we got new business that we're dealing with here, and it's going to be this pond issue, and they sent it out to all you people, I know that you would have responded to it. I know that when I found this information, was afraid that our council didn't know anything about it, and I sent an email to our mayor. The very next day, I got a response from him saying, hey, Chief, thanks. Right? So there are some things that work, some things fall, we've heard the cracks and so forth, but they are responsible. The thing that we have to understand here, we're all one family. This is a corporate family that we're talking about. We're all responsible for one another, and we all care about one another. So let's be respectful to all of us, and I think we'll knock this thing out. But I think that we have to be, cautious. I think we have to be sure that we have the right people are out there. All due respect, mayor and chief of police and so forth. But I really don't think you guys are qualified to look at a chemical processing plant and determine what should or shouldn't be there. There should be somebody that's out there that knows how to do this. There should be an architect that's saying this is what the building looks like. And these are the preventative things that we're going to implement here. And the landlord should be held liable for this stuff because of modifying his property. All right, so, and I didn't see in any of these conversations, there may be some that I'm not aware of, any conversation between the landlord, GDP, the Middlesex Waste Commission, any of that. So there has to be communications. I'm sorry, I keep going past that. But
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, motion to close the public portion.
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Linda.
Okay, we have Resolution 272, 2024, acceptance of standing reports. Resolution 273, 2024, renewal of membership in the Central Jersey Joint Insurance Fund. Resolution 274, 2024, acknowledging the change in status for certain properties under the Senior Citizens, Disabled Persons, Veteran Tax Deductions, Block 6, Lot 2.02. Resolution 275, 2024, authorizing the purchase of necessary equipment for the police department's vehicle from Island Tech Services in the amount of $8,481.50. Resolution 276, 2024, approving the block of Howard Avenue between Fisher Avenue and Woodland Avenue for the Watchung School PTO to hold a trunk or treat on October 27, 2024 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Resolution 277, 2024, authorizing the execution of an agreement for the sale of borough-owned property, Block 306, Lot 17. Resolution 278, 2024, acknowledging the change in status for certain properties under the Senior Citizens Disabled Person Tax Deductions. Resolution 279, 2024, acknowledging the change in status for certain properties under the Veteran Tax Deductions. Resolution 280, 2024, order of temporary appointment for Lauren Politi as acting court administrator.
Okay, anyone need to pull any of these? No? Okay, I need a motion.
Motion.
Second? Any discussion? You guys good?
Just to let everybody know, our court administrator is out on maternity. That's why we had to do this.
Okay,
She did send me the last report and said this will be my last one for a little bit. I
gotcha.
wish her luck, and if you need anything, to let us know.
Okay,
Thanks, good.
all right. Roll call, please.
Council President Carnahan?
Yes.
Councilman DeCino?
Yes.
Councilman Doty?
Yes.
And Councilman Quinn?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, non-consent,
We have Resolution 281, 2024, pay all claims.
motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second? All right, any discussion?
Nope.
Nope. Roll call, please.
Council President Carnahan?
Yes.
Councilman DeCino?
Yes.
Councilman Doty?
Yes.
And Councilman Quinn?
Yes.
Okay, very good. We have one agenda workshop item tonight, it's the Cedar Avenue Railroad crossing. Now, what we've been doing is that we've gathered some information on this. Actually, the police are pretty far along on this at this point. And Chief, if you don't mind, could you read that the status update of where we are with this for right now?
So this goes back a few years ago. We had some terrible accidents at the crossing. So back in February 27, 2020, there was a diagnostic meeting that was conducted with the Cedar Avenue at-grade railroad crossing in order to review and determine revisions to the railroad warning devices, the traffic control devices, and to look to see or investigate how we can better serve the public there. After the meeting, NJDOT provided a list of short-term actions, intermediate-term actions, and long-term actions. The short-term actions, and it might not be all-inclusive, but we put together the list from communications from them, was install a new track crossing surface, install new stop bars, install double yellow centerline pavement markings, install edge of travel way pavement markings, install white diagonal pavement markings in the shoulder, both sides of Cedar Avenue at grade crossing. Install 8-inch white pavement markings delineating the dynamic envelope of the railroad at grade crossing. Install four tracks flagged under all railroad advance warning signs approaching to the Cedar Avenue at grade crossing. Install a do not stop on tracks sign on Cedar Avenue southbound, just south of the Conrail freight line. Install a do not block box pavement marking on Cedar Avenue northbound lane at the business entrance and exit driveway approximately 380 feet south of the Conrail freight line. Install a do not enter sign at the service driveway entrance exit only in the southwest quadrant approximately 65 feet from the Conrail freight line. Install a no left turn sign opposite the business entrance exit in the southeast quadrant approximately 180 feet from the Conrail freight line. Install 27-inch by 18-inch 4-track signs under the existing railroad advance warning sign along both Lincoln Boulevard approaches. Install a storage space sign In advance of trackway, 75 feet between tracks ahead, and sign in center between trackway, 75 feet between tracks and tracks behind you. Install an additional railroad advance warning sign between Voorhees Avenue and Boulevard. Pave northbound and southbound approaches. Pave south tracks to approximately 5 feet of the Conrail outside rail. Clear or clean out any vegetation and debris within the railroad right-of-way, 300 feet each side of the New Jersey Transit Valley Line and the rail freight line. The intermediate term actions were a new signal north of the New Jersey Transit Valley Line for southbound traffic, inform railroad engineering services of necessary steps needed to progress of the included proposed new traffic signal in the current Trail 2 project. Design and install a new pre-signal north of the New Jersey Transit Rail Operations Rapid Valley Line tracks. Develop a railroad preemption sequence in the proposal pre-signal located north of the New Jersey Rail Operations Rapid Valley Line tracks, which will allow any queue of vehicular traffic to clear across the railroad tracks, because there's 2 steps there before the arrival of the train. Coordinate the railroad preemption sequence of the proposed new signal with New Jersey Transit Rail Operations and Consolidated Rail Corporation. Provide for the interconnection between railroad circuitry housing unit and the signal cabinet controller of the proposed new traffic signal. Provide sufficient length of interface cable for the railroad to perform the connection from NJDOT junction box to the railroad circuitry housing unit. And install and maintain a junction box adjacent to the railroad right-of-way in order to perform the interconnection. So of the short-term and intermediate term, all those items were taken care of by NJDOT. The long-term action was to pursue the concept of grade separation, feasibility, design, and funding, which was probably one of the more difficult because of the way the roadways are designed in that area. We haven't had an update from them. They did recently. They recaved and fixed the crossing because it was really bumpy and it was really getting out of hand. We've been kind of chasing them down for a while to get that done. It doesn't happen very quickly, but finally that's done as well. So the rail lines now, at least they're not a disaster as you're going over them, as far as like how bumpy they are and how bad it was for the crossing. The long-term action was not done. Obviously, it's not. I don't know where it's at this point. We reached out for Barbara Foran from NJDOT. She's the diagnostic team leader, structural railroad engineering service, and August Greener, who's the Federal Railroad Administration inspector, and we requested an update. We're waiting to hear back.
Okay, that's where we're at? Okay. Okay, at this point, that's where we're at. I guess what we really need to do at this point, what I would recommend, is let's get a little bit of a committee together to just, I know they did all the intermediate, but is that all the intermediate things that they should be doing if it's going to be, if we're going to have to wait around a long time for a long-term solution? Like, do we feel that there's more they should be doing at this point? Some of us seem yes, some of us seem no, but in order to get to the next step, we should at least have a little group get together, talk about what we feel is the next step. I mean, is the next step waiting for them to do a long-term, above grade change, or are there other intermediate steps that they could do, like maybe putting, gates on the inside so people know that they can't, you know what I'm saying, make it almost into 2 separate crossings where you have gates on both sides of the track, of both tracks, so you know that if you're outside of the gate, you're clear. You don't have to worry. I don't know if that's something that we should pursue. I mean,
Is that something that they would consider pursuing?
I don't know. But if you don't ask, you don't find it. You get nowhere. I mean, I just think at this point, I think having a representative of the police, maybe a councilman. Kevin, would you be interested in being part of this?
It would depend on the speed at which we're moving. I
I mean, I sent you guys...
You got the state involved, Kevin. It could be 100 years. You know how that goes.
No. You could look through the emails that I sent everybody. You saw the timeline in which I started at point zero, where I didn't know anybody, and just started making a phone call.
I understand all that, but at this... Well, at this point, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but at this point, they identified a short term, an intermediate term, and a long term. They've done everything except the long term. And with the finances in this state, that long term may be well after we're in a box. So the question is, are there other intermediate steps that we think that we want to discuss? Because if you just go there and say where you're at, you're going nowhere. If you go there and say, we think you should do this, this, and this, and let them respond, is that something you're interested in? Yes? No?
I would be interested in being involved, but I think my take on how to go about it is going to be a bit different. When I spoke to August, who's the safety official when it comes to the Federal Railroad Administration, he told me all eyes are on Conrail after the last act, because it's in their lap. It's their problem. They changed those train tracks decades ago. They moved them so that they're side by side. And people have been getting killed there ever since. With all due respect to Ms. Moran, because I had spoken to her a couple of times too, she gets you nowhere. So, I mean, that's what's going to happen with her. They know what they need to do. They just need somebody to crawl up there and make sure that they do it. That's where I'm at with it. Because I sent you guys all the emails, all the phone calls I made. You can see the dates and exactly how long it took me to get from point A to point B, which is finding out about that meeting and making sure we have reps at that meeting. And it wasn't months, it wasn't weeks, it wasn't years. That was in a matter of maybe a week, of just pounding calls. I mean, not to call somebody and wait till they have to return my call. Keep calling, and keep calling, and keep calling, so you get the person you want on the phone. Because there's all kinds of other people calling. And one of them is Valbro. Because the other thing that brought me to look at this again is the fact that I heard you're looking to close the Queensbridge train crossing. And that involves, they need to do an aquatic study because of the wildlife. They need to bring in a historian because there was a battle that was fought there. All these other things that they don't need to do for our crossing. And when I asked them point blank, why are you spending so much time and effort there, when right up the road you have the most deadliest train crossing in the state? And their answer was, because we're not hearing from anyone there. We're hearing from Valbro. Somebody needs to pound it before it happens. Inevitably, the way it sits, it's going to happen again. And here's the other thing, I don't know if you were aware of this, but the reason I came in and brought this up was because I was crossing over early on a Saturday morning. I was the third car, so I could see in front of me. As we started to go over, we were stopped. And I'm like, why are we stopped? An employee of Spray Tech had stepped out into the road and stopped traffic to allow for a tractor trailer to leave Spray Tech. So even with all the changes that are being made, as long as stuff like that is going on, somebody can still get killed. So write an ordinance that if somebody dares to stop traffic at that crossing, that you're going to leave them for everything they have, so that no one does that. Because that guy could cost somebody their life. And when the guy in front of me slowed down to address and yell at that guy, he flipped them off, said F you, he called him a piece of, and went back inside to his hairnet to go about his business. So that was the one time I just happened to be going over, and there was somebody who actually had the let's stand out there and stop traffic. And everyone was stuck on the track.
I can have my traffic officer stop down in the mall or forward and sure that doesn't happen. They don't have the authority to go out there and stop traffic.
Right.
And the whole preemption light, that was a lot of money they put that in there to make that light, so it would clear the queue.
Right.
So
I can give you the exact date and time that it happened.
I'll see that there. I'll make a note. I'll have some stop down there and probably tomorrow. And if you like that calls you, I want to go down there and handle the sheet, not after.
Right.
But we'll handle it because then we've identified exactly who it was and why they did.
Yeah, I had the exact time and everything, so I remember where I was going at a particular time and I had to be there. So, and a particular date. So it's my mindset with it that if we keep drilling down on it to the point that they get tired of hearing from us, they're going to do something. Because one of the other pieces of information I sent you guys was all the projects that they have done all over the country. They've built entire on-ramps. They've closed entire on-ramps because of a crossing that didn't even have to pay paddles. So they do this stuff. So their responsibility. Long Island developed a program and got rid of every single grade crossing that they had. Every single one. And that was just from one incident that they were motivated to do it. These are an antiquated way of crossing tracks. They're extremely dangerous. And the rail company knows it. Conrail's got the money to put a bridge there. Conrail has the money to put a bridge wherever they want. And the other thing that's happening that I don't know if anybody's aware of, they were looking at the one leg, and it was specifically right through Middlesex, is they did want to make some changes. And the changes they wanted to make was to allow so that they can classify it differently and roll through larger, heavier trains. So they weren't looking to change things to make it more safer for how people cross. They were looking to change this, change that, raise this, move that out of the way, so they could push even bigger trains through. So if they got the money to change things, that they could pass even bigger, heavier stuff through here, they certainly have the money to make things safer. I mean, Conrail is the one, they know it. The way I was told it the first time I reached the office was he said, all eyes are on Conrail right now during this site meeting because they got another fatality at this crossing. And they were the ones that pushed it moving closer how many years ago. You'll find the guy at the Federal Railroad Administration is extremely forthcoming and extremely helpful. And he told me point blank the first time I talked to him, because I thanked him for being so forthcoming and helpful. He said, look, part of my job when there's a fatality like that is I come in and I've got to look over the tape of it second by second. He goes, if somebody comes to me and they're presenting an idea or they want to get involved in a way that I may have to look at fewer of those tapes, I'm all about it. So they're all ears, and they'll do whatever they can to help. But at the end of the day, it comes down to like everything, who's going to pay for it. And the truth is, from the way it was explained to me, it's in Conrail's lap. And if you notice, of all those changes, leveling out the Conrail side was the last one made. So they drove their feet even from that first meeting. And myself, and I encourage people to call this 800 number right there at that track if there's any problems. I said, just call and keep calling and say you're having trouble crossing because it's so bumpy on the other side. There's a lot, it's a big cluster over there. There's a lot of moving parts, but there are people who are fully aware.
And what was the guy's name you said that was helpful?
I've looked it up on my emails, but it's August. It's his first name.
August?
Yeah, August.
His name is August Vernier.
Yes.
All right.
You had contact with him.
Yeah, August is great. I mean, he was very, at least I found him to be very helpful.
All right, at this point, you know, it might not be a bad idea to just table it for a little bit. I want to get some more information on what their next plan is and just see what they have to say and pester them a little bit. And if I come back and I say, hey, listen, I tried calling this guy 20 times, we're getting nowhere fast, we got to up the ante, then that's what we're going to do. So, you guys all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your input, Kevin. Appreciate it.
And thanks for looking into it again, and you got to get this started.
Okay. Let's, well, we sort of had an open forum here. Let's open up the floor for privilege of the floor on the agenda workshop item.
Motion.
Motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone coming up? Okay. Motion to close?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to have an executive session tonight. Action will be taken. Okay. So at this point, we're going to break for 5 minutes, but let's get the resolution out.
I have Resolution 282, 2024 executive session.
All right, motion?
Motion.
Second. All right, roll call, please.
Council President Conhan.
Yes.
Councilman DeCino. Yes. Councilman Doty.
Yes.
And Councilman Quinn.
Yes.
All right, for those of you guys that are going to cut out right now, the next meeting is October 22nd. So let's break for a few minutes.